These are our honor panelists today. You've already met Jocelyn and Jay. We held the fireside chat over the weekend. So Jocelyn and Jay are very close to us now. And Jocelyn was the former COO for Google Cloud, also the former COO for Omada Health. She joined a startup and actively participated in building the company, building the team. So wealth of knowledge in operations. Jay just gave us a talk just less than a week ago, and he was the former CTO for NetApp and Brocade. Of course, Jay also shared very personal stories near and dear to our high schoolers. Thanks for being here. We do have a new panelist, Mark. Mark is actually our investor at Kyros. I've come to know Mark and really impressed by his just business acumen and his vision about where the technology is going and how they're thinking about investing in entrepreneurship and build a company from day one. So Mark is managing partner from Zero Ventures. He sits on the board for many, many startups. So lots of personal experience, and will be able to help our high schoolers as you start thinking about your future career and entrepreneurship and innovation in general. So let me quickly summarize what we've done in the last 8 weeks. As mentioned, when we started the online forum project and mobile applications, we broke the team into 3 teams. The first team was asked to conduct customer surveys and be able to create a PRD so that the engineering team can take that with the UI team's wireframes, start implementing these specific product features. Then the third team really focused on the go-to-market strategy and the planning of it. We did some experiment, but this come together as launching a specific set of features within Kyros product. So essentially, in terms of the timeline, there's the June 12th to June 23rd, there's about 2 weeks. The team was focusing on ideation and designing part of it. Then the heavy lifting was done in between, and that's June 24th to July 28th. The team really focused on thinking through different buttons, the look and feel, how to engage with the users and user experience, a lot of prototyping and sort of iteration on the product features. Then the last 2 weeks, the marketing team has been focusing on developing the marketing plan and experimenting with social media, reaching out to potential customers, so on and so forth. So that was the last 8 weeks of the summer internship. Now let's hear from the team itself, what they actually have done, their thoughts behind it, their approaches, and we will have our panelists to comment, suggest, and critique. So let me give the floor to Richard, and that will lead the online forum project. Richard, over to you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Hi, everyone. So the first project we would like to showcase is the Kyros Online Forum. It's a single access platform that offers students streamlined services to assist them in their academic journey to university. So the marketing team will first talk about the problem statement, business scope, pain points, and the competitive analysis of this project. Then we will discuss the consumer needs and behaviors which shape the product requirements document and transition into the consumer insights that ultimately allow the UX team to develop amazing wireframes of our vision online forum. We will also showcase a working prototype demo made by the UX team, as well as the current product created by the engineering team. Finally, the marketing team will conclude with future recommendations and present a roadmap for the online forum's future features and implementations.
So as I was listening to the presentation, I felt in awe that such a young group of people could approach a project like this so methodically. So kudos to you all. I think you have followed the exact process of some very accomplished professionals in real life companies. And so Rebecca and the management team, thank you too for providing that environment. What I mean by that is that the approach and the method that was followed is very complete, very polished, very thoughtful. So I think that speaks a lot to the commitment and to the discipline of the team. I particularly like that there was a starting point that said, what is the problem that we're trying to solve? And I also like that you talked to real people who could answer the questions. And then based on that, you ran with the initial thought processes that you have. So I don't have much to coach you on in terms of the method that you followed. But there is one important thing that I would offer, that what struck me was when you started the presentation, you said that one of the pain points is there's too much information and people are lost in this whole process of all the forums that they could go to. I would encourage you to dive deeper into that as you carry on with your work. In your future recommendations, there was one that that speaks a little bit to this. That is your idea of going to partners and other resources who could help with content, right? So I think a lot of the work that you do today pressed heavily on the mechanics of what the tool could do. The pain point, though, is related to the content of what you deliver. So resist the temptation of leaning only on one side of that, but also focus on the other side. The project is a forum, and the forum is two parts: the mechanics of it and the content of it. So I definitely feel that that is worthy of deeper attention and more focus, because it is what will, in the end, distinguish what you do differently from simply providing a platform for people to talk to each other. In the end, you need to bring content to the table, and how you do that in a way that motivates both sides of the community, both the consumers of the information and the providers of the information, I think will be a very powerful thing to focus on.
Thank you, Jocelyn. I remember in Google days, you often talked about, this is back then, it was still a relatively small team. So there are a million things you could do, but you have to decide what not to do. So stay very focused. So thanks for sharing that insights. Jay, you've worked with so many different technologies and, being in the industry, seen lots of movies. Any comments about what our interns are attempt to do here?
Yeah, I wanted to echo Jocelyn's comment. It's amazing to watch so young a group go through such a methodical approach, and the way you're thinking about it, it was exciting to see, using some pretty modern design approaches and methodologies to actually spec out a product and build it in such a short amount of time. I thought it was, I'm not a heavy forum user, so I have sort of an old boomer's opinion on different UIs and things like that, which I will spare you my opinions on that. But I thought a few things about the process I was curious about as you went through. Was your audience entirely students or also parents? And in the focus groups, did you include both students and some parents to get feedback on what the needs are for the different audiences you plan to serve? It seems like a lot of the feedback was student oriented, but parents were mentioned a few times to potentially be users of the forums. So I encourage you to just make sure you gather customer input from everybody who you think is going to be a potential user of the environment and shape it accordingly. I also thought that the gamification and including the Kyros coins was a clever idea. I think that appeals well to the generation, and I think is a way to keep people engaged. I was kind of looking for the coins and the gamification being part of the go-to-market strategy of encouraging current forum users to solicit new ones to join and give them coins in response or something like that. It seems like there's a natural fit there, since word of mouth, it was such one of the primary ways that you discovered that people learned about these forums. And then the third point I was just curious about is how you got ongoing feedback from your users on how to improve the forum. What was the vehicle to do that? because you never get it right in the version 1.0 when you go out, but how can you keep listening and get feedback from customers as they use it, that you can then use to continuously improve it. And I was kind of looking for that and didn't see it, but I thought that was a natural thing to factor in. But you had all the right bones in there, in the structure of the project and how you approached it, and the willingness to learn on an ongoing basis. And I particularly love that dashboard you showed at the end, of kind of the status of the project. That was as good a dashboard as I've seen in many a business meeting. So congratulations on that. It was a great way to just summarize what was going on. But well done, really well done. Short amount of time, an exciting project, and you guys really approached it with a methodical approach.
Thanks, Jay. Mark, you've been in Silicon Valley, seen those startups, the movies many times, what made them successful, what made them fail. So perhaps help our high school students to get a feel into when they start thinking about ideation, product to market fit, what are the key points they should keep in mind before they start the journey?
Sure. I guess, Rebecca, my first comment would be, when do they graduate? Because we'd like to hire them for some of I mean, it's just very high quality work. So that, echo what Jay and Jocelyn said. So that's one. I would say the second one is, as you know, Rebecca, I mean, I got two daughters on both ends of this process. One's a sophomore in college and one doing product management and UI UX stuff. And I got a sophomore in high school who will go through this process. So I've got, like, call it bookends to your process, right? And someone who's gone through it and someone who will be going through it. So I have a very good sense of when you're describing this, what the forms are. I know my wife would use it. I wouldn't, because everything you describe in your customer pain points is so true. Because I looked at College Confidential once and I said, never again, I'm done, right? And you've heard that from me before. So I'll give you feedback in two buckets. One is on the presentation and kind of what I gathered from the presentation, and Jake kind of alluded to some of it. And the second one is on the product, because I think it's very important as you think about your careers and going through college and everything else. The presentation is as important to some extent. The first is, on the when you talked about your customer discovery, I call it customer discovery. What Jay said is exactly true. You talk to students, you talk to parents, but I didn't have a sense of how many students you talked to, how many parents, what was the mix, because it felt like the feedback was kind of aggregated across that. And it's really important when you're providing data to be very clear on where that data came from and what that, what the sources of it, what was the breakdown. And I think that would be one important point. And the second point I wrote was, in some ways, I know that you had a big team and everybody was kind of going through the information, but you were almost guilty of the problems that, College Confidential has, which is a lot of information, right? And the eventual dashboard was beautiful, but I think instead of having lots of points, maybe like 2 or 3 key points, pulling them out, making sure it's very clear versus just going through a laundry list of a lot of things. I think some portions did a better job than others, but it's really important for someone to walk away with, yep, these were the 3 things. So I think it's really important both in the communication as well as kind of, in the presentation, as well as kind of when you have your product eventually saying, hey, here are the 3 things I want to do. And then finally, the only comment I would have on the product itself, the one thing that caught my eye, only because I have 2 teenage daughters, was kind of you spent some time talking about Facebook and trying out a bunch of different things. But if I look at where they're spending their time, and probably where all of you are spending your time, it's probably on TikTok, right? So if I think about where the experimentation is and where I would have spent time, and maybe you guys did it, but is kind of understanding kind of like where, like Facebook, when you describe Facebook, I'm thinking maybe that's addressing the parent audience, like Jocelyn and Shay, but where the students are is TikTok, right? And so it's like, where would you spend your time and energy? So it's almost a resource allocation question on the product side. But Rebecca, those would be my comments on presentation and product.
Really valuable feedback. And I think a lot of that is actually applicable to the second project we're going to present, which is the mobile app. So as the name suggests, we have another team of summer interns. They're also as great as the online forum team, and they develop a mobile app of this otherwise web-based Kyros platform. So they actually didn't do the whole website, obviously, but they did the most important part, which is the chat feature. So with, if you chat on the computer, you don't get pop-ups and notifications. It's kind of a pain, but on phone, it's really convenient to kind of connect with other Kyros members and coaches, and then form a much stronger community. And that is what we have achieved with this mobile app project. So without any further ado, I will invite the team to start presentation.
All right, thank you, Wendy. All right, just like Wendy said, there are a lot of pain points when it comes to having communication over the computer, especially when it comes to communicating with the millennials and Gen Z. We love our phones and we don't always carry our computers around. So that is where our problem statement